Dun, 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 dun. I think we're here. Okay, fantastic. I think we got a live stream going. Welcome, everybody. Happy October. Holy what? Like fourth quarter. I'm still just kind of like, what is happening here? Like, didn't 2023 just start? Uh, anyway, we're here. Like, I'm so glad you're here. If you're new to the group, every first Monday we do a practitioner spotlight where we talk to someone who has either gone through the WELLth Academy or is currently in the WELLth Academy and just like sharing their story. Like, what have they done? Where have they been? What are they doing now? And Chelsea here, I'm so excited to chat with you. How long ago was it that like did you graduate?
Yeah, so I graduated as an ND in 2012 and I was licensed until spring of 2021. And
But like from the WELLth Academy,
yeah,
when did
it
you
was, it was, so I started just before I actually resigned and everything. So it was the end of 2020 that I
end of
started. And then I
2020?
graduated, I think it was January of 2021, I
From
believe.
and
Yeah, because
from
I think it was
actual
August to January with
okay
you,
okay from the
something
WELLth
like that.
Academy. Okay,
Yeah,
perfection. So it's been a little minute.
it's been some
And
time.
yeah. And so what I'm so excited, Chelsea and I were just talking before this, like one of the reasons why I'm so excited to have Chelsea on here is because she was previously a naturopathic doctor, and I'll let you dive into like what life was like prior to and like how things have shifted for you. But like the thing that I really want to emphasize here, you guys, is that I want to help facilitate a practice and a life that's super in alignment with like who you are and like how you want to bring your unique gifts into this world. And so, Chelsea, do you want to talk about how like where you were beforehand, like naturopathic doctor and things
Yeah.
like what was life like there?
Yeah, for sure. So, first of all, as I said, I need to make a disclaimer so that the board doesn't
Oh,
get irritated because, yeah, I'm not a licensed naturopathic doctor in the province of Ontario, Canada anymore. And I know someone who got served basically because they stated that they were in a podcast. So that kind of gives the overarching context for why I left the profession when I did, as it just felt too constricting. There was too many rules. I felt out of alignment with what I was doing, even though I really loved the basic tenets of naturopathic medicine, all of the oath that we take and everything like that. But yeah, so basically I had been on my own personal health journey since like my teens, 20s for sure. And in the kind of the first steps of that was energetic type medicine. So I had a lovely practitioner who was a medical doctor turned naturopath, basically, but did a lot of energy stuff like frequency machines and like intuitive testing and all this sort of interesting things. So I thought that was what a naturopathic doctor was. So I ended up going into college for naturopathic medicine, thinking I was going to learn this whole set of things that felt more aligned to me, which wasn't the case. I
so far
worked
from it.
yeah. And I worked at clinics where we did, I did live blood cell microscopy, like dark field
Mhm.
microscopy. I did some functional lab stuff. Like I kind of did a whole bunch of different things. I had environmental medicine training. So I had all these things to pull from, but I couldn't put them all together under the scope of naturopathic medicine in the province that I was in for almost a full decade practicing. So I had to take a leap. And that's when a friend of mine who was at the same college as me, she gave me your name and I was like, yeah, this is it. Cause I need someone else who's done that similar, well, the same jump, naturopath to not licensed.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, but there was a lot of fear that came up with actually making that jump. One, because you have to pay a good amount of money to resign your license and you can't really get it back. So you
Whoa,
have to
so you
go
have to
through the
actually pay to
whole,
get rid of it.
yeah, in the province
Whoa, in
I'm in.
Canada. Okay,
Yeah.
wow. Oh,
I
so
don't
just
know
in
if
that
it's
province.
across.
Okay.
Yeah. The province that I'm in,
So
Ontario,
fascinating.
is one of the most restrictive in like the world for naturopathic medicine. So I can run more labs technically now through the way that you teach
Mhm.
than I could as a naturopathic licensed. So it's just a little bit weird how the system is set up. And I just couldn't keep finding, like going through all the hoops, and it just was really restricting, especially because my intuition was growing. And I found that clients I was working with, I would just like hear intuitive messages, like words or things to say to them. And they'd be like, they just start crying or open up, and they'd have shifts immediately. And I'm like, I should probably be doing more of this kind of stuff. Right. So even through your mentorship, I learned a lot more in depth about the functional labs, which I love. And that's kind of where the clinic I was at, just recent, like just before, like my last clinic I was at, we did some functional lab testing and crossover and different things. But you teach it in a very in-depth way, which I love. So I did that type of a model that you template out for about a year. And I started feeling like, you know what, I like this, but I feel like something's not quite in alignment. And so I shifted to like my signature program being a 90-day kind of container, doing just intuitive stuff. And at some points I'd run 1 or 2 functional labs, but it was very like few and far between for the functional lab stuff. And I love that. And I'm still in a whole, like at this point, I'm in a whole other redevelopment because I'm busy. I'm wanting to branch out in different ways. So I'm going to relaunch like the 6-month kind of the template that you have, but I'm going to do, I think, just a couple labs, but it's just, I'm always just playing with what feels good. And it always seems to click, but I have all the structure of what you taught that I can, kind of pick and choose from. And when I go into a reassessment, which is like every 6 months, usually with my business and the way that I flow, there's those things to refer to, like the process of how to like create the offer and all of that.
Like the blueprint, like the pillars, like the foundational pieces where you can be like, I want to pick and choose or whatever. I love that you have this like reassessment and this like regular reassessment, because I think that piece is so important. And I think a lot of practitioners get kind of hung up into like, I have to make this decision and it has to be the decision for the rest of my life or for the next 10 years or for the next 5 years even or whatever. And it's like, no, like that's like the gift of creating this lifestyle and this practice is the constant refinement, because so many of us, I feel like, I know this is true for you, Chelsea, there's like, we're on our own personal development journeys also. And like, we're constantly evolving ourselves. And so it only makes sense for us to refine our offers and like who we're working with and how we want to deliver our services and like how we want to show up and like all of these things. And I don't think people allow that as much as we could or should. And like, it's such a benefit to us and to everybody that we're serving to actually take a moment and do that reassessment, that refinement, that realignment, or whatever that is, because that's you like recalibrating to like where you are now. Right. And like, I think that's so beautiful. And that's why like, I'm so excited just to like dive in like more with you and just like what you're doing, like how you said you're busy, you said you're like doing some refinement right now. Like what's shifting, what's changing, what's happening with you?
Yeah. So after I did the 90-day, I was kind of like, you know what? Okay. So the template, like the 6-month all functional labs, it's not quite fitting. So I'm going to like throw this other thing out there, and we're going to focus on body connection mostly, and just working on a physical symptom of some sort and figuring out how the body, like what messages are there, what other energetic weird stuff is kind of blocking that. And it just happened to stick. Like that's when I really started to gain a lot of momentum. And it was also, I put it at a price point initially where it was like basically beta testing, which is actually something that you introduced me to, is actually doing that. And so it was a lower commitment for people and a kind of a lower commitment for me. I'm like, just throw this idea out there. And yeah, I still run that as my like main signature program today.
That's so
and I just
cool.
recently increased the price. So I think it's like double now what it was beta. And so as I grow, that kind of shifts, and the type of support that I have within the container changes. So I just recently kind of rejigged all of that. And I have kind of mini readings and one-off for new clients as like sort of a trial to dip their toes in.
Yeah, because what you're doing isn't necessarily like really well known. Like people are like, wait, you do what? Like I don't know if I can like jump totally in with you because this is, woo or whatever you want to call it. Like I love that stuff, and I love that you're doing it and that it's being successful. And I love that you also say it's like once you found that alignment, things like just started picking up in the momentum. It's like once you're in that alignment, it's like things just flow so much more easily.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like,
It's been
so
fun
cool.
just to kind of play around with different things and to be in the creator seat. That was the main thing that I really wanted, was the freedom to do what I want, when I want, where I want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Being in the clinic space, it was very much like, okay, you have X number of patients this day and this day and this day, and they, they're all scheduled for you, which is great. But with the way I started working with clients energetically, it was like, well, I wouldn't put these 5 clients in the same day. I might spread them out. So even stuff like
Mm.
that, I was like, it's not quite fitting for me. So now I get to be in the creator seat all the time with my schedule, with the content that I create, with the services, the course that I did, like just all this stuff.
Totally.
That's my favorite part about what I do now, really.
That is so cool. And I know at one point, I don't know if you guys still are, you were thinking about moving somewhere else, right? Like you were thinking about Europe, you were thinking about Mexico, or I
Yeah.
think,
Oh
or
yeah.
like there were some
Yeah.
like which is also cool. What's going on with that?
So far, so it's funny. We were like purging like crazy going to Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to the point where I think we were just like, my husband had an appointment at the consulate to even get like a year permit and everything. And then we ended up moving just like 2 hours north of where we are, which is interesting because it kind of is like a bit of a full circle for me. I'm by the lake again, which I love. And I grew up on the lake for like 20 years. And there's a lot of healing and other, again, the personal development piece is working alongside of me in the business. So as I up level in the personal development and growth that I'm going through, I infuse that into the business. And it's so interesting working with the energetic side of things too, because yes, there's the structures in business which you need, but also I can tell when I've gone through an up level because I'll have an influx of client requests in my inbox again. It's like, oh, okay, well, we've hit something different that people need. So this is cool. Like, it's
Oh,
just fun.
that's so cool. That's so fun. And it's like you're doing
Mhm.
what you want to be doing, and like you're not feeling like you have to do it a certain way, which I think is like that's the key. Like that really is like freedom, in my opinion, is like the freedom of choice, like being able to do what you want to do, like,
Yeah.
and it not needing to look a certain way, and not needing to check with the board, and not needing to, be fearful of like what you say or what you do or don't do, or
Yeah,
any of those kind
exactly.
of things. It's just so huge. That's so cool. I'm so proud of you. Like that's just like
Thank you.
such an exciting thing. So going back to kind of like the mentorship, so you mentioned like blueprint, like pillars, the functional labs. Was there anything else that like helped you or guided you, and like what kind of stuck out with you, like, or for you for that process?
Yeah, I think it was the fact that it was all there, like from the
Mm,
process of visioning what you want to do to getting the offer created to the marketing of that, the mindset work behind it at the same time, just everything that you need to do to go from. I was basically restarting because as a naturopath as well, you're not allowed to have things structured in a certain way. You're not allowed to price things in like containers or like it was totally new to me. So
mhm.
having that laid out as to how that works, what things normally are valued at, which was also very different. Just everything about that, the supportive container of chatting with, other people going through the same thing as well. But I'd say the biggest thing for me, um, one of the biggest things was the systems, like the templates and things that you
Mm,
provide, because that's something that I've used consistently throughout the container switches. I've edited them all to have my own nuances, but
uh-huh.
just the idea of having like the protocol template, the notes template, the intake templated, and all the other forms that kind of go with that, the process of the check-ins and reassessments, which I do only in my like larger containers. But all of that was, it still continues to be helpful because and I found that clients really like the value of that because,
Mm,
even in my 90-day program, I'll do like a little reassessment at the end of it for them and have things kind of noted out for them and what to continue in the future. Also from a business perspective, I'm going to say this because I'm actually very proud of this from a biz perspective, but in all the clients since starting, so like 2021, I've only had one client who didn't carry on to work with me yet, who just finished in the spring. Otherwise, I have
Whoa.
clients who've worked with me at least once or twice since ending that container, the 90-day container. And some of them have continued on for like a year after. So because we're
Wow.
always shifting and changing, and
Yes.
it doesn't have to be about that
Yes.
one thing they came into, which could have been addressed already. Um, yeah.
That's so
So
good. Congratulations. Like client
thank you.
retention. That's so beautiful. It's
Yeah.
like
It
that
makes
says
me
so much about
feel,
you. Yeah.
yeah, it makes me feel like, okay, I'm providing value. They're getting something from it. I enjoy working
100%.
with them. And that gives me the drive to keep going as well. It's like, okay, I think a lot of it was me figuring out the confidence in what I actually do, and like figuring out how, like, the kind of the juice of how I wanted to do things. And now that I have that, it's like I can take that any which direction, right? Yeah.
So good. So good. I love it so much. So are you open to sharing it all, like how you actually work with clients these days? And like, what does that actually look like? Because I bet some people are watching or watching the replay and they're just like, okay, so you kind
Yeah.
of dabble in labs and you were an ND, but like, what are you actually doing?
Yeah. So it's a little bit different. If people don't, I do a lot of energy work. So if people aren't really used to that, it can be a little bit different or interesting. So even in the strategy session, which is the free call, to see if, the 90-day or my larger offer that I'm restructuring is the best fit, I'll kind of do an energetic tune in. So if someone says they have a low energy as their symptom, I'll kind of look into, I basically visually see things in the field as like bits of information, or I'll hear messages, or I'll get a sense of something. So just using my intuitive sense, I'll say things like, okay, there's, low this vitamin or that mineral is looking low in your field. There's also this drain in this work relationship, and it looks like a female energy. And then there's also this piece with your daily routine and habits that looks like it's off, and then I'd state, okay, this is the program that I think is the best fit, and this is the way that I'd work with you in that. My one-off consult, clarity consult, is where I'd actually go into those action steps with them. But that's kind of the gist of how I work with people. And so as we get working, a lot of clients will realize like, oh, I have, and past life information comes up a lot. So as we start delving into all these deeper levels and layers, people realize like, oh, this is not necessarily a bottomless pit, but there's always something to be digging deeper into. And
Yes,
it's fun. So that's the
it
best part of
is.
it, is
Yeah.
it's always fun. Like, I don't know what's going to come up. I literally do a little alignment before each session to like put myself into neutrality and just be open to whatever is going to come up. And sometimes things will come through and I'll be like, does that mean anything to you? And there's always some connection or message there. So it's fun. It's fun work.
Ah, it is so incredible. I love that you've really allowed your gifts to come online and like you have an avenue to express them, share them, and like actually provide service to people in a way that's really serving everybody involved. So yeah, just like so proud of you. That is so cool.
Thank you.
Is there anything else that you want to share or like that you want to like any pearls of wisdom for someone who might be, like thinking about it, like on the edge, like, I don't know, like I feel safe over here as a fill in your blank title, like I feel safe or what, like I'm scared to take the leap. I'm on the fence. Like, wow, what would you say to them?
Yeah, I'd say a lot of it really does come down to choice. And that's a lot of the work that I do with clients, is reminding them that we have the power of choice. Like, we think that this person, is causing this issue for them, or that's causing this issue. It's actually the power that you gave away to that person. It's your
Oof,
choice to give away that power. Right. So same thing
chills.
with this. It's like, it's your choice to stay in that box of the title or whatever, or move outside of it. And it doesn't mean that if it's aligned for you, it's going to feel really good. It likely will not. Because
Initially, at least, yeah.
exactly. Initially, it's going to probably feel terrible because
Yeah.
it's something new. You're ripping yourself away from that safety blanket. which,
Yes.
although feels safe, is not necessarily safe, or you're in your highest best alignment for the future where you want to go or anything like that. It's just what is currently feeling safe to the nervous system or the mind in this moment. It doesn't mean that that's actually setting you up for where you actually are aligned to go. And we forget to dream bigger, I think, a lot of times. And if you're plugged into like for me, the older system, I just call it the older system of naturopathic medicine in Ontario specifically, is just like, there's just too many boxes and containment around it that it just wasn't going to allow me to move forward anymore. It literally felt energetically like I had a shackle specifically on my right foot, oddly enough.
Wow.
Like I tuned into it and I was like, this is what it feels like. So that is probably not the best thing to have carrying around right now. So, we have to think bigger and dream bigger and allow ourselves to level up to that, even if it feels terrifying in the beginning, as it did for me, sorting all that out. But it helps to have like I said, even though I'm not doing the exact template as you taught us in that way, I can pick and choose and use the tools from that still. So it's like I can still gain, I can still gain all that from the mentorship.
That's amazing. That's the goal for sure. I love that you like everything you said about that, because what you're describing is like literally our comfort zone, right? Like just because it's our comfort zone doesn't mean that it's serving us in any way, shape, or form. It's just literally what our nervous system has like regulated to, right?
Yeah.
And it's like getting outside of that, you're literally entering your discomfort zone, like if that's what you want to like because it's not your comfort zone anymore, so you're literally getting outside of comfort. And when you're talking about too, it's like sometimes we're not like thinking big enough, because what I see a lot with practitioners is like they've been head down, tunnel vision, this is what I'm working towards, this is what I have to do, this is how I have to do it for so long, like that's what becomes normal to them. And it's almost like when we think about our clients or our patients or whatever, their slow, insidious decline in health, that's their new normal, new normal, new normal, new normal. And they forget to look up and be like, whoa, what does it feel like to have optimal energy or to sleep all the way through the night? Or like they forget what that bigger picture is. And I kind of view this process with practitioners like in the same way. It's like we've slowly become these sort of like factory workers, like is the visual that's coming up for me. It's just like, do it this way and this is how it's done and da, 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 da. And it's like everybody's miserable. Like it doesn't serve the practitioner, it doesn't serve like the client or the patient. Like
And the other thing I will say that I'm getting nudged to mention is the idea that everything comes from like source, universe, divine, God, whatever you want to call that higher presence, that like all the potentials of what is already in your heart has already been created for you. And it's just literally like tapping into that and then using the structure to make that like actually be created. Right. So you need both, but that's the dreaming bigger. Like it's already there for you. So like, why aren't you taking it? Really?
It's so true. It's like, it's the freedom in the framework, right? It's like the structure provides like the conduit for like the energy and the creativity and like the desire and like all of that to move within. And it's like, finding the right like conduit or the right blueprint or the right structure that feels like most aligned with you. Oh, so good. Oh, such a good conversation. I love it so much. So beautiful. Thank you so much for just sharing your story and sharing so vulnerably and, taking the risk to show up online.
Yes. And I will also say, if there are any naturopaths in Ontario out there, I've spoken to at least 20 of them so far. I created a PDF of like all the things you need to know to drop your license, because when I started to do it, I got different answers from the board. Like it was a mess. So
are you willing to share that with me so I can share it with people?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm happy to help where I can. I used to
Mm,
do like Zoom calls, but then it just got way too much. So I had like repeat questions. So I created the
good
PDF.
for
Like
you.
if you still have questions, that's also the course, like automate what you're getting repeat questions on.
Exactly.
Right. So
Exactly. All
yeah.
about leveraging your time. Like if you're going to repeat
Yes.
something more than once, create a handout or create something, a resource.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mm,
exactly.
beautiful. Man, I am so proud of you, Chelsea. Like just it's
Thank you.
so cool what you've created and what you're continuing to create and just like the constant refinement and realignment and just being able to work on yourself and just I'm sure it's affected like your family and your community and like all of the areas in such beautiful ways. So thank
Mhm.
you for doing your work and bringing your gifts into the world. It's like it's so cool to see. So
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for supporting me in my the spark that lit the flame, so to speak, in that process, in that journey. Cause yeah, that was the trickiest transition was
Mm,
the actual jump. So,
mm,
if I didn't have that support, I would not be flying like I am now. Because
mm,
I needed to have that structure. Right. So I
mm,
hope that others can see that, that they, can see the value in having those systems and everything in place because it saves you all of that time and developing all of that. And it's proven, tested systems. So yeah, well worth it.
mm, 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 mm.
And thanks for
Thank you
having me.
so much. Oh my gosh, yes. Have a beautiful rest of your evening and we will
Thank you.
chat soon.
Okay, sounds good.
Bye.
Bye.